Welcome everyone. In this video I'm going to go through all challenges from my Boolean operators video, starting with challenge 1, where we're going to display two numbers to the user and ask them to input the result of the two numbers divided and multiplied, and they have to get them both correct, otherwise it's going to display not correct. So we'll ask them, let's do 2 and 8 because that's an easy one to divide and multiply. So 8. So what is 8 multiplied by 2? And what is 8 divided by 2? So we're going to get both inputs. So int user input 1 is equal to int.parse. Why is it not filling this in for me? Not read key, read line. So that's the first user input. And we'll create a second user input right here. So we've got both user inputs. So we're going to do a selection statement to say if the user input 1 is equal to 16. And we're going to use double equals because we're comparing two numbers. And then we're going to use two ampersand symbols. And we're going to check, does user input 2 equal 4? We'll need to do an else for the second message. What was it? So the second message was not correct. And the first message was, let's just say it was correct. Oh, I think I accidentally deleted. There we go. Let's double check this works. So 8 times 2 should equal to 16 and then 4. So that's correct. Let's make sure if we bet both of them correct. So let's do 9 and 9. So that should say not correct. Now when you're doing stuff like this, when we're testing, we should test does getting one of them correct and one of them incorrect also say not correct, because that's what we're intending it to do. So 16 is correct, but let's say 3 is not correct, so that works fine. And one more test just to make sure it's definitely working correctly. So let's say 0 is not correct, but 4, that's the second one, is correct, and that still works correctly. So done a few tests and I know everything is working correctly, so that's challenge 1 complete. Challenge 2. So we've done this slightly already in the selection video. How do we input a number? How do we get them to input a number between certain numbers without using two different if statements? So we can do that using an or an and operator. So let's get them to write a number between 1 and 10. We'll just call this user input. So we'll start it as an if statement and then we'll change it to a while loop so we can get them to re-input the number later on. So while the user input is less than, so less than 1 will do. And we're going to have to use an or statement. I'll show you why an and statement doesn't work. And greater than 10. So if the user input is less than 1 or it is greater than 10, then we get them to re-input again. So out of range, please input a number between 1 and 10. We'll do a read line, that's fine. Read line and read key also does that. So if I was to put, for example, 11 or -1, -1 doesn't work. Oh, it's because it's an if statement, obviously. So what we're going to do is we're going to change that to a while loop. It does work, I've just been stupid. So we're going to change that to a while loop and that will do this over and over again. So we're going to say 11 and then -1 So it's going to keep asking, for example, 12, that's out of range, and then when it's in range, so let's test 10 is in range, so that should work. So that stops there. Now the reason I've used or instead of and is because if you think about it, while user input is less than 1 and user input is greater than 10 doesn't make any logical sense. You can't have a number less than 1 and greater than 10, so this statement will never become true. So if, for example, we had -1, then you can see it skips the statement, even though we're intending it, if we put -1, to go into that while loop. So it's always a good idea, if you are using the and or operators, read it out loud. What makes logical sense? User input less than 1 and user input greater than 10 doesn't make logical sense, but user input less than 1 or user input greater than 10 does make logical sense. I'll show you what do I want. What if I want to do it in the other way around? So what if I want to put a message if, for example, they get it correct? So if they put the number between 1 and 10, we'll just say well done. So greater than 1. So we'll say greater than or equal to 1 we need. Less than or equal to 11. So do we need an or for this, or do we need an and? Remember, if it's between 1 and 10, then it's true. If it's out of those range, then it's false, and we want to not say well done. In fact, we'll say not well done. We'll say nope. There we go. So have a think, do we need an or do we need an and? The answer is we need an and. Now let's go through this, why this is. So if user input is greater than or equal to 1 and user input is less than or equal to 10, makes logical sense, because if it's 5, for example, that's greater than or equal to 1 and that's less than or equal to 10. If it's an or, that is including every single number. So why is that? Well, what are the numbers greater than or equal to 1? Well, 1 to infinity. Or what are the numbers less than or equal to 10? Well, it's 10 to minus infinity. So that essentially allows every single number. So if I was, for example, to say 100, well done, that works. If I was to say minus 5,000, well done, that works. But change that into an and, now that will work. So if I put 100, no, that doesn't work. If I put 5, that definitely works. So that is a little bit of an extra lesson for you about how these Boolean operators can work. Challenge 3 is using the or to check different answers. So a lot of the time when you're doing user input, they may user input in capital or lowercase or all capitals. So you can use an or statement to go through all different possibilities of inputs. So let's say it's a question that says, what does CPU stand for? Let's pretend we're making a computer science quiz application. We'll leave it as user input, and I think it's a simple if statement we need, yeah. So we're going to say if user input is, we'll keep the well done and say not correct for the other one. So we're going to keep this selection statement. We're going to say user input, does it equal? Now we're going to need to change this to a string because we're asking them to input text. So we'll get rid of the int.parse. So let's do capital first. No, we'll do, yeah, capitalized first. Central processing unit. After that, we're going to do an or. Now, biggest mistake I see is saying, is this. Redoing the string or redoing the condition without putting in the variable, so the variable identifier. So you have to put the variable identifier again if you want to use an or, an and Boolean operator. So that's capitals. And again, we're going to need to do one more for the lowercase. And there we go. So that will do all three different ones there. So we'll do capitalized, entirely capital, or lowercase. I'm not going to test this because it's going to take a while to test this. But what I am going to do is there is a way to do this without having to do a load of ORs. And I think I covered this in a previous video, but you can force a user input to be either all lowercase or all uppercase. So if I was to say user input is equal to itself to lower, we can avoid doing all of these ORs entirely and only have one input by forcing it to lower. Okay, so even though it's a good challenge to do, that challenge is kind of pointless because we can completely nullify that challenge with the to lower. So the final challenge was, we have 3 Boolean values. Now, Boolean operators are something I haven't used for a while, but it's worth remembering that they exist because we can check if a value is true or if a value is false. Now, when I'm doing some of my later projects, I'm probably going to be using some of these Boolean values quite a lot. So let's see how they work. So we're going to need to have 3 Boolean values. It's raining, it's sunny, and it's windy. We're going to check those against certain conditions. So it should be rainy, it should be sunny, but it should not be windy. So that's 3 conditions that all must be true. So we need to use AND Boolean operators for that to work. Let's create our 3 in there. They should be strings. So no, they should be Booleans, of course. So we're going to say bool is raining. Doesn't matter how these values actually work. I'm just going to set them all to false to begin with. And we're going to do is sunny and is windy. Now, the reason I've chosen this question as one of your challenges, it's kind of a weird question because it's not too clear on how they want it actually laid out, but I have seen this on an exam paper before, so that's why I'm doing this challenge right here, because all that they wanted to see is the 3 Booleans set to either true or false, and in fact, I think the exam paper didn't even expect you to create the Booleans, they just wanted you to create a selection statement that checked is raining, is that equal to true? And is sunny equal to true? Is sunny equal to true? And is windy equal to true? And of course I need to spell is sunny correctly. And then we need to say all conditions are true, right? Picnic is possible. We'll do an else to say picnic is not possible. And there we go. So if they're all false, it should say picnic is not possible. If all of them are true, it should say picnic is possible. And so if any one of them are false, it should say picnic not possible. I'm not going to go through all combinations because it will take a while, but you can see how that is solved. And that is it. So if you have any questions, please let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please give this video a like and a subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.